Cheers, Rockets fans. Welcome to The Locker Line, an exclusive podcast from the home of the Rockets.
Whoa!
Sports Talk 790.
Rockets!
The Locker Line is proudly served to you by Carbox Clutch City Lager.
It is good! Oh, yeah?
Red Nation, get ready. Get ready. The Locker Line starts now.
Welcome aboard. Thanks for tuning in to another fresh episode of The Lager Line, as always served to you courtesy of Clutch City Lager of Carbach Brewing. I'm your host, Ben Dubose, and I cover the Rockets for USA Today's Rockets Wire and as a contributor to Sports Talk 790, the official flagship radio station of the team. Today, I'm very happy to be hosting a 2023 to 24 season preview show with emphasis on the business side, alongside Gretchen Sheirr, President of Business Operations for the Rockets. Gretchen, thanks for taking the time to join us on this Friday afternoon, only a few hours before tip-off of the home preseason finale versus the Miami Heat. By now, I'm assuming you all are ready just for the regular season to get here, right?
We are. I mean, we're ready for tonight's preseason game, too. So
Yeah.
It's going to be a great crowd.
But I mean, the 29th is the home opener. I'm sure that's going to be a pretty big night for everybody. And it's a Sunday home opener against the Warriors. So that's one that's going to be really big.
It is good. It is good. So yeah, we'll start on Wednesday against Orlando and then have another road game. I think it's Spurs, right? And then we'll start at home against the Warriors. And for all of our sports fans, we have already found out that is between games 1, 2, and 3 and 4 of the World Series. So there will not be a World Series game that night. So hopefully our friends down the street will still be playing, but they won't have a game that night. Yeah.
Yeah, that could not work out better. All right. So this coming season, you've transitioned the branding from Light the Fuse to Liftoff, which makes sense because as Rafael Stone, GM, and Ime Udoka, head coach, have said really since April, this is phase 2 of the rebuild. You've got guys from the last couple of years, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperin, Şengün, but now they're getting older in their development, and you've also supplemented them with, I mentioned Ime Udoka, the new head coach, but you've also brought in veterans like Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Jeff Green. Why is this the right time to sort of migrate the branding? Why is Liftoff a better fit for this group than Light the Fuse?
Yeah, I mean, well, over the summer, they were talking about phase 2, right? And we knew that this was going to be a journey when you're rebuilding your team and you're finding new pieces, and we're back on our, what we call a journey, right? Our journey back to greatness as a franchise, as an organization. Phase 2 is not super catchy, so that wasn't going to be the campaign. Right. And so, Light the Fuse over the last couple of years is it was really it's coming. This is exciting. We are creating the energy. We're creating the momentum of what is going to come, right? And so Liftoff is sort of that moment, right? We feel like all of that is coming together, that we are ready for liftoff, right? We are not ready to get to our destination. There's still a journey ahead, but we're ready to lift off and take this into the next chapter and the next phase of our organization.
Right. Makes sense. I know in some of your branding and your talks, you do work with players and coaches on the basketball operations side. As mentioned leading off the show, one of the intriguing things about this season, there are a lot of new faces from the last time that a lot of Rockets fans saw this team, especially at Toyota Center. Mentioned Ime Udoka. You also drafted 2 first-round rookies that have had very promising starts to their careers in Summer League and preseason, Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore. Also the veterans, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Jeff Green, and so on and so forth. What's been your impression when you deal with those guys? What are their attitudes like? What's it like just having them in the building on a more frequent basis now?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has been great. So, I mean, Jalen and Tari and Jabari and Alpi and Jayshawn and all of the, I'm leaving off folks, but, everyone that has been here for the last couple of years, they too knew, right, that this summer was going to be a pivotal time, that we were moving past this initial phase into the next one. We always knew all along this was going to be the summer where we had more veteran players that are joining the team. So since we played the last basketball season of the 22-23 season, everyone has been ready for the start of the 23-24 season because we knew what was coming. And that includes the guys and the players as well. So a lot of them were here over the summer, the younger guys, like still training, still working out, using the facility. So they've been here a lot. They've gotten to know our team a lot. And then when we had the free agents join over the summer, it was great. A lot of us went out to Summer League in Vegas because of the timing. They had just joined the team. So we actually went out there to make sure that everybody had a chance to meet the business office and the rest of the team. And we did an awesome team dinner and team gathering. So we're really excited to have them and their families here.
So besides handling long-term business, you're also in charge of the day-to-day experience for fans at Toyota Center, not just for the Rockets, but for concerts, really the management of the building. And we're going to get to, in a few minutes, talking about some of the longer-term planning you've just kicked off or soon kicking off. Phase 2 of the renovation plan. Jonathan Fagan in the Chronicle says that's about a $30 million investment. So we'll talk in a little bit about what's to come in future years. But let's talk about now any changes from last season. Is there anything, and I suppose it's not just the building itself, it may be theme nights, it may be other things you guys are putting together, but what's going to be new for fans at Toyota Center this season that may have a different feel relative to last year?
Yeah, I mean, well, for you, you now have really good coffee and ice cream
Yes.
and
Yes.
significantly better food in your
Yes.
meeting
Kudos.
dining area. So after the first preseason game, everyone's already yelling at us that they're going to gain weight because the food and the
Yes.
ice cream is so good.
Yes, for sure.
So good, but that is most fans will not have the opportunity to see that.
Unfortunately,
But
right.
our really big transition, one of the reasons I was late to joining the call is we were testing out the new LED ribbon boards. So we
Oh,
have
wow. That's
doubled the amount of digital LED screens that are in the bowl. So we used to just have the one level of the ring, and now we've added 2 more levels that are twice the clarity of what they were before, significantly brighter. And that really just brings the arena with the technology into this next phase. And that is the first part of that project. And then next summer, we will redo the control room and relocate it. So all of the team that's running the in-game promotions and in-game broadcast, all of that, they actually do from underneath the studio right now. So they can't actually see the game. They're watching it on screens. We're moving it to a location where they have an eyesight into the bowl so they can see how fans are reacting to what we're doing. And all of that technology and all of that equipment is being upgraded. And then the center hung scoreboard will be replaced next year with a brand new scoreboard as well. So we have a beautiful scoreboard. She's great, but with the LED screens and the technology, it changes pretty quickly. So we're really excited about that next year as well. And then there's tons of new food and beverage and concession updates that people will see. So if you're fortunate enough to sit low on the floor and you go into the Jack Daniels Club, there's now an expanded food menu that's kind of a grab and go, frictionless. We partnered with Maven Coffee, which is Lance McCullers' company. So they're adding a location here at Toyota Center. Garrison Brothers is doing a bar on the upper concourse for fans that will up there that will significantly cut down on wait times in those areas. So we're excited. There's lots of theme nights and fun promotions that are coming up. I'm going to let our marketing team tell those in their stories and videos on social medias and emails, and not have me do it in a poor way.
So I know the building upgrades and the amenities that you've improved over the offseason, that's taken up a lot of your time. But I think what's taken up as much, if not more, has been changes on the television side. Because one thing that's been going on in the background for a few months. So back in, I forget if it was February or March, but basically you all learned that Warner Brothers Discovery, which owned the previous AT&T Sportsnet subset of regional sports networks, was exiting the RSN business. And so there were a number of ways that an organization such as yourself and also the Astros could move forward. What you ended up doing was basically just retaking your rights. And now AT&T Sportsnet Southwest has become the Space City Home Network. And as of now, it's the same channels as before. There's no real changes for fans. There are some possibilities for the future that this might open up that may have been more difficult when you were part of a larger entity. But just walk fans through, if you could, what happened there and why.
Sure. Your timing is correct. Kind of in early spring, the previous ownership had made made it public, right, that they had planned to exit. We had been working in partnership with the Astros for months and months prior to that in anticipation of changes that are happening across all of the landscape right now. You see that in other markets with other RSNs that are owned by other entities. And that's just the changing landscape of media in general.
Sure.
So we're really excited about what the future means. But in the short term, our number one priority was to make sure that we protected fans in Houston, and that if they were able to watch the game in the past, that they were able to continue to watch the game in the future. And so by us acquiring the regional sports network, that allowed stability and distribution to continue in Houston. And now that it is owned and operated in partnership with us and the Astros, our number one priority is making sure that our fans have access to the game, that we deliver quality content, that we are creative in looking at other programming, but it's a sports team that's doing it. And so I think you're going to see a lot more fan forward decisions being made.
Yeah, I think that's important to underscore, because when you're part of a larger entity, it's tougher for you all to branch out on your own. And I think a good example for our Astros fans listening, if you've noticed, the Space City Home Network is running these post-game shows in the postseason. And that's something that people around town have asked about for years. Why isn't this happening on AT&T, on some other RSNs elsewhere in the country? It has been. For example, when the Astros played the Phillies in the World Series last year, the Philadelphia RSN had post-game shows. AT&T did not. So now you've got the ability to sort of make your own decisions on that and sort of choose, not unilaterally because it's you and the Astros, but have many fewer hands in the cookie jar when it comes to making, investment decisions and just calls on what you do for fans. And so I assume that's a good example of how it sort of simplifies the structure. And I know there's nothing to announce now, but I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, that this may open up the door a little bit more to either new carriage agreements with other providers, or maybe, direct to consumer streaming. You're seeing some teams eventually take that option to the marketplace. Since you fully control your own rights now, and there's not this larger entity that's sort of controlling it that you have to run everything by, theoretically that does open more doors, right?
Yes and no. Like, it certainly will give us more control of
Right.
those decisions in
Right.
partnership with the Astros, and we have great alignment with them. But we did purchase the regional sports network, right? So
Yeah.
we do operate under that
Under the
that
existing.
business model,
Mhm.
over there. So exploring direct to consumer and how that fits inside the regional sports network is
Right.
absolutely a priority. But when that happens and at what time, we're not ready for those decisions just yet. But
Yeah.
obviously something that will eventually be coming.
Yeah. And let's just say, as far as the postseason post-game shows, hopefully that's something the Rockets will sort of force their way into having as well, be it 2024 or 2025, right?
That would be fun for sure. Yeah, but
Yeah.
those are
Let's plan on
perfect
that.
decisions, right? Those are
Right.
that's a perfect example. And our example is that the regional sports network is contractually preseason games are typically looked at differently. They have historically covered 2 preseason games. And this year, obviously playing in San Antonio, that was a very different dynamic with a player who was taking the court for the first time that our fans in Houston were, obviously wanted to watch. And the network said, we should
Yeah.
broadcast these games. So they did twice as many preseason games as what they've
Yep.
done in the past, adding
Great point.
the content that local fans want to hear, which is your local broadcasters that you watched all year long talk about the playoffs, is something that Astros fans want to listen to. And so being able to make those decisions as a network and teams without somebody else in
Yeah.
the mix is why you're seeing some of those decisions.
Yeah. And one thing I want to reiterate is that by basically picking up the network, you inherit the existing agreements with the major providers like Comcast, DirecTV, Uverse, and so on and so forth. And I believe those run through 2032 or the early 2030s. And that's a lot of stability, given that right now what's going on in professional sports with RSNs, everybody's going to have to go through the transition at some point. But whereas some franchises are going through, all the Bally teams aren't even 100% sure what this season is going to look like because of what's going on with Bally's business model. As opposed to this at least gives you a buffer. It gives you a few years to sort of gradually figure out what the next steps are, as opposed to having to be the guinea pig. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, that's fair. We feel in partnership with the Astros, we feel very fortunate about the situation that we're in for our fans. They know exactly where they can find our games and watch their games, and it was the same channel they watched it on last year. So.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the renovation a bit more because we talked about it earlier more in the context of just this season. You went into a little bit of what's going to come in the future. Jonathan Fagan in the Chronicle reported that the overall investment in phase two of the Toyota Center renovation is about $30 million. So we can, I guess you already laid out some of what's going to happen. I guess first off, is there anything else that we haven't covered already that's going to be coming down the pike? And then secondly, just sort of explain how that's connected, not just to the Rockets, but everything else that it takes to have a successful business model. Because fans always ask me, is Tillman Fertitta ever going to get a hockey team? And you have others that will ask about the WNBA, or they want, March Madness. For example, you're supposed to have a regional final in 2020, which unfortunately got scrapped by COVID. People ask about all-star games. They want the best concerts. So I guess beyond just what the renovation entails, what the timetable is going to be, also explain, if you could, why it's so important to have Toyota Center in the best shape, not just for the Rockets, but for everything else you want to do with that building.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, first, we will host more third party and concerts and other events in Toyota Center than we will Rockets games. So we
Right.
have, since coming out of COVID, our first year, full capacity back was that was the most number of concerts we've ever had in Toyota Center in 2021. We beat that in 2022. We will
Yep.
beat it again in 2023, and our projections show that will happen again in 2024. So with Houston growing, with the amount of infrastructure and growth that we are seeing in this marketplace, it is where concerts want to play. So, the Rockets is obviously a huge part of my job, but the third party events and the concerts and booking and making sure that this building is delivering to our community as a wide variety of events is immensely important. You had mentioned 2020 and NCAA and the Sweet 16. So that was obviously moved because of COVID. We are getting that in 2026. So it was the 2026. Yeah. So that is there. We've hosted all-star games in 2006. We've hosted them in 2013. Those have been booked out a couple of years, but the next time they open up for bids, Houston is a great large event city. And so we'll be bidding for those events again and making sure that you are, a marquee first class building is important. And Toyota Center's bones are fantastic. And we've got some updates to come. You had mentioned the projects before and the investment that we've made. Those are the planned projects. And we have just started engaging with sort of outside firms to start looking at what does Toyota Center look like in the future. So how do we make better usage of the square footage on the concourse to create new bars and food optionality? How do we find place to increase the size and the footprint of the team store? How do we create a standing room only opportunity for fans, right, in our building, whether that's for concerts or for games? So we're really looking at the way that the consumer has changed over the last 20 years since Toyota Center has opened, and making sure that when we go through these renovations, we are looking forward to the next 20 years.
So the roughly $30 million in phase two, how is this funded? Is this basically Tillman? Is there any other entity?
It's us.
Okay.
Yep.
So explain, if you could, why investing proactively is so important. Because I know it's not just the building. I know Tillman let it slip at the Ime Udoka press conference announcing his hire that, there is a new practice facility coming out on the west side. There's going to be potentially some basketball operations offices out there as well. So there's a lot of what I would call proactive investment going on. In other words, not waiting for something to fall apart, but instead, planning ahead, taking the time to sort of project out, not just the next few years, but 10, 20, 30 years, and so on and so forth. Just talk, if you could, about why it's important as an organization to be sort of on your front foot as opposed to being reactive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tillman runs a first class organization across all of his businesses. And if you wait too long and let anything slip and you lose that status, it's hard to get it back. And our fans, spend their time, their hard-earned money and they could do plenty of things with that. And they choose to come to Rockets games, and they choose to come to Toyota Center for concert. And we want to make sure that we're delivering the best experience possible. And that means keeping things new and fresh and up to date to today's standards.
As we close out, I mentioned earlier how Rafael and Ime have both talked about this being phase two of the rebuild. And of course, the new branding of Liftoff reflects that. For the business side of the operation at Toyota Center, be it ticket sales, partnerships with the franchise, or anything else, what does phase two really entail and how is it different from phase one? What's your sales pitch to people, be it ticket buyers, potential partners, whatever it may be? What's your sales pitch on why this is the right time to really get involved with the Rockets?
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody loves a winner. Like that is
Right,
the case. And just like, we were talking about earlier about sometimes you have to be proactive to invest in something for the future because if you wait too long, it's too late, right?
right, right,
And if you wait for playoffs and Western Conference Finals, like sometimes it's too late and everything is sold and you don't have the best seat, you don't have the best partnership opportunity, and your suite is in a different location than what it could have been. And so that's been what's been really excited us. Our fans have been fantastic through phase one. We had great energy and great attendance in the building, even though our performance was not where it had been in years
right.
past. And so we're in a really good spot so that when we get through phase two, our business will be bigger and brighter than it was, the last time we achieved these peaks on the court.
That's Gretchen Sheirr, President of Business Operations for your Rockets. Before we sign off, any last words, anything we haven't covered that you want to throw in as far as this upcoming season and the journey ahead? I know you've got new city jerseys coming out in November. I know you've got new theme nights, ticket plans. Anything else you want to throw a plug to before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, look, opening night is going to be our it's going to be a huge night, right? We want everyone in the city to come out here and support and see this new team. Immediately following that, we will have Filipino Heritage Night, which has been a huge night for us and immensely important to Jalen. And then immediately after that, we have a kids' night game, which is on a Saturday. We have
Yep.
not played very many Saturday night games over the last couple of years, just how the cards
Right.
fell with the schedule, and we have those this year. So there's something for everyone this year, and we're gonna have a good basketball team. So we're excited.
Absolutely. I am too. All right, that will do it for today's show. Great insight, as always, from Gretchen Sheirr, President of Business Operations with the Rockets. If you want more content before our next show, the best place to get it is online, where you can follow me on Twitter or X at Ben Dubose and this show at The Logger Line. And if you go to the Logger Lines page, you can find our link tree, which has links to our distribution partners like Apple, Google, and Spotify. If you'd be kind enough to subscribe, leave a positive review at your location of choice, we'd greatly appreciate it. Also, on that same link tree, you can find all the links to friends, sponsors, and partners of the program: USA Today's Rockets Wire, Carbach Brewing, Sports Talk 790. Hit up those links and you can enjoy their content as well. All right, with those plugs complete, we will break. For Gretchen Sheirr, I'm Ben Dubose. Thanks as always for listening, and please come back soon for another new episode of The Logger Line.